Let's get more on this news tonight about Carl Froch. And I can tell you we're joined now on Sky Sports News HQ by one of only two men to have beaten him. And he is a wonderful boxer, Andre Ward, who joins us from the United States tonight. Andre, good evening to you.
How are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for joining us. What was your reaction when you heard that Froch was hanging up the gloves?
I think anytime an athlete that can still compete, you know, at a high level, anytime that athlete retires, it's somewhat of a surprise. But, you know, I guess not so much in this case because, you know, Froch has spoken about it, you know, openly and candidly over the last couple of years. And anytime an athlete speaks about retirement and verbalizes it, you know it's on his mind. So I don't think it was a shock, but I think it was a surprise because there seemed to be some fights on the table for him. But Froch has nothing else to prove. He's given the boxing fans, I think, you know, enough blood, sweat, and tears, and he can ride off in the sunset knowing that he's, you know, fought the best and defeated a lot of them, and you know, he has nothing to nothing to prove.
Absolutely. And as I mentioned, Andre, you fought him, you beat him. What was he like to face in the ring? Was he your toughest opponent so far in your career?
Yeah, I don't know if he was my toughest opponent, but one thing I appreciate about him, and one thing that is similar to myself, is he's a competitor. He's not the most skilled guy. He's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He doesn't hit the hardest. He's a very, very, very good fighter and probably a great fighter and probably a Hall of Famer. But his competitiveness is probably his biggest asset, as well as myself. So from that standpoint, just in the trenches and when things get rough, you can sense and feel a guy's competitiveness, and he has it. And that's why, you know, I enjoyed our battle so much, and that's why we've had our moments even outside the ring where, you know, we're talking and competing against each other because we're just competitive.
Absolutely. I mean, the promoter Eddie Hearn, Andre, said that he had talks with you earlier in the year about a potential rematch with Froch. Was that close? Could it have happened?
Well, I don't know how deep the talks got. I mean, I didn't talk to Eddie personally. I think Eddie was in contact with my team, Rock Nation. But I considered it for sure, and I considered it only if it was at Wembley Stadium. And the response I got was, you know, Froch and his team wanted to fight at some arena I'm not familiar with in Nottingham, and that just wasn't an option. I felt like I was giving up a lot as it was coming over, and then we were going to, you know, fight in a smaller arena and just not, you know, just not a stage I wanted to be on. You know, I wasn't going to fight in his backyard. I was already in his home country, and I felt like that was enough. So that's what detoured. And honestly, you know, taking nothing away from Froch in his moment, I don't think he wanted to fight, and that's fine. You know, he didn't have to come back and fight me. He put up a great effort, and, you know, he's done great things in his career, so I wish it could have happened. I think it would have been great for the UK fans, but it didn't happen that way.
Didn't happen that way. Andrew, just finally, you're a great fighter. Froch was a great fighter. How will you remember Froch?
I mean, he's a guy who did it the right way, and what I mean is, you know, this day and age, with the internet and social media, you know, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of fluff in the game. There's a lot of guys saying a lot of things that really don't mean it. It's you know, confusing boxing fans. They think certain fighters want certain matchups, but behind the scenes you find they really don't. You know, the promoters are talking loud, trainers are talking loud, and you know, I appreciate the way that Froch and Robert McCracken went about their business. You know, Robert was very confident and believed in his you know, his fighter's ability, but you didn't hear him excessively talking. And of course, Froch loves to talk, but the difference between Froch and a lot of these other guys is, you know, he not only backed it up, but he was willing to step up. And whether it was, you know, trying to get in the ring with Joe Calzaghe or you know, Jermaine Taylor, or the list goes on and on. So you have to respect the way he went about it. You have to respect the fact that he not only stepped up, but he beat just about all of the guys that he fought at the top level, and he was competitive in every fight that he was in, and he brought his best every time out. So, I mean, you know, I have nothing personal against Froch. I actually like Froch a lot, again, because he reminds me a lot of myself with his competitiveness, and he did it the right way. And, you know, it's a victory to be able to go out on your own terms with your money intact, your faculties intact. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about.
That's what it's about. You said it. Andre, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.